The galaxy would later agree on one thing: the war did not begin with a battle. It began with a warning. A warning the Nigma Empire laughed at. And that laughter echoed right up to the moment their first world burned. The Hall of Unified Stars was older than most civilizations. Its walls were carved from crystal that remembered history. Every great war, every fallen empire, every broken promise was recorded in faint lines of light that pulsed like a living memory. On this day, the hall was full. 160 species watched in silence as the Nigma Empire's envoy stood at the center platform. Envoy Carax did not bow. He never did. His armored crest rose high, his 6 black eyes cold and sharp. Confidence rolled off him like heat from a star. "The decision is final," Carax said, his voice amplified across the hall. "Sector Orion 9 will fall under Nigma control. Human colonies within it will submit or be erased." The silence that followed was heavy. Several delegates lowered their heads. Others whispered to their translators in panic. Everyone in the hall understood what this meant. The Nigma Empire did not negotiate. It expanded, consumed, and moved on. An elder from the Varuan collective slowly rose. His species had survived 3 galactic collapses. His voice was quiet, but it carried weight. "Envoy Carax," the elder said, "the Council urges you to reconsider. Humanity is not prey." Carax tilted his head, amused. "Humans? They are young. Weak. Their ships are crude. Their empire barely exists." A soft ripple of unease moved through the hall. "They are survivors," the elder replied. "That is worse." Carax let out a sharp clicking laugh. "Every species claims survival. Every species believes itself special. And every one of them fell." This time, another voice joined in. Director Lethari of the Astral Sciences leaned forward, her long fingers gripping the table. "My institute studied humanity for 2 centuries," she said. "They adapt faster than any known species. They do not collapse under pressure. They transform." Carax waved her words away. "Transformation does not stop orbital fire." "No," she answered calmly, "but it teaches you how to survive it." That was when the human representative stood. Ambassador Elias Moreno was unremarkable by galactic standards. No claws. No armor. No glowing eyes. Just a human in a dark uniform, hands resting calmly at his sides. He did not raise his voice. "Envoy Carax," Moreno said, "we do not seek war." Carax turned fully toward him, towering over the human. "Then surrender." Moreno met his gaze without flinching. "We cannot." "Why?" Carax asked. "You know you will lose." Moreno nodded slowly. "Yes. At first." A few delegates gasped. "But humans don't measure war by first losses," Moreno continued. "We measure it by who is still standing at the end." Carax leaned closer. "Is this your threat?" "No," Moreno replied. "This is your warning." The hall froze. "We know your strength," Moreno said. "Your fleets. Your weapons. Your numbers. We studied you just as closely as you studied us. And we learned something important." Carax's eyes narrowed. "You rely on fear," Moreno said. "We rely on memory. And memory lasts longer." The Varuan elder closed his eyes. He had heard those words before, spoken long ago by another doomed empire. "You still have time," Moreno added. "Leave Orion 9. No blood needs to be spilled." For the first time, Carax hesitated. Just for a fraction of a second. Then pride crushed the doubt. "The Nigma Empire does not retreat," he said coldly. "Your warning is recorded. It will be remembered as the moment humans chose extinction." He turned and walked away. As the doors sealed shut behind him, the hall erupted into anxious noise. Species spoke urgently. Some stared at Moreno with pity. "You were brave," Director Lethari said quietly. "But bravery will not save your people." Moreno smiled faintly. "It never does." Then what will? She asked. Moreno looked up at the glowing records carved into the hall. Preparation. 3 months later, the first Nigma fleet entered Orion 9. Their ships were massive, black and angular, blotting out stars as they moved. Admiral Vila of the Nigma Vanguard stood on the command deck, confident and bored. Human resistance? He asked. Minimal, his officer replied. Scattered defense platforms. Small fleets. Vila sneered. Then begin orbital dominance. End this quickly. But something was wrong. Human ships did not rush forward. They did not charge. They withdrew. Cowards, Vila said. Then the first mine detonated. Space folded inward as the blast tore through 2 cruisers. Before alarms could finish sounding, more explosions followed. Human mines, hidden in gravity shadows, activated in perfect sequence. Shields failing, an officer shouted. Impossible, Vila snapped. Our shields. Another blast cut him off. Human ships appeared suddenly, not from hyperspace, but from blind angles. They moved in coordinated swarms, striking supply vessels first. Fuel ships. Command relays. Repair craft. Focus fire. Vila ordered. But there was nothing to focus on. The humans struck and vanished, again and again. They are avoiding direct combat, an officer said in confusion. No, Vila growled, watching another cruiser drift lifelessly. They are choosing it. Hours passed. The Nigma fleet was still intact, but damaged, scattered, exhausted. Then a transmission broke through. A human captain appeared on screen. Older. Scarred. Calm. This is Commander Rhea Collins of the United Human Defense Fleet, she said. You are deep in human territory. Vila hissed. You are losing. Collins nodded. We know. Then surrender. She leaned closer. Admiral, humans don't fight to win today. She smiled. We fight so you lose tomorrow. The transmission ended. Moments later, the human fleet vanished. Vila stared at the empty space, unease settling deep in his core. His ships were damaged. His crews exhausted. And yet, the humans had lost fewer vessels than expected. Too few. Far from the battlefield, deep within human space, a network activated. Old shipyards came online. Civilian factories shifted purpose. Millions of humans moved with quiet focus. The warning had been ignored. And now the lesson would begin. The Nigma Empire believed the first battle proved human weakness. They counted ships. They counted bodies. They never counted time. And time was the weapon humans used best. Admiral Vila stood before the Nigma High Command, his armored plates scorched and cracked. The chamber was vast, built to inspire fear and obedience. 6 massive holograms showed damaged fleet formations. This was not a defeat, Vila said carefully. It was a test. The high strategist's eyes narrowed. A test that cost us 87 ships. Ships, yes, Vila replied. But not control. The humans retreated. The Emperor's voice echoed from above. Then press forward. Vila hesitated. They want us to. Silence followed. The humans fight differently, Vila continued. They do not defend space. They defend time. Every hour we remain here costs us resources. Every day they learn more. The high strategist scoffed. Fear makes you imagine patterns where none exist. Vila lowered his head. He had spoken enough. The order came minutes later. Advance deeper. Commander Rhea Collins watched the Nigma fleet move exactly as predicted. On her command table, glowing markers followed enemy paths through human space. They took the bait, her tactical officer said. They always do, Collins replied. Human ships scattered again, not fleeing but guiding. Pulling the enemy forward. Stretching supply lines thinner with every jump. On distant worlds, humans prepared. Farm colonies became factories. Miners became engineers. Artists became signal analysts. No speeches were needed. No panic spread. They remembered. Old wars. Old losses. Old promises. Humanity did not unify through command. It unified through instinct. The Nigma invasion stalled at planet Halcyon. Halcyon was insignificant by strategic value. No major cities. No shipyards. Just a quiet world of forests and shallow seas. "This is where we make our stand," Collins said. Her officers exchanged looks. "With respect," one said, "we can't hold Halcyon." Collins nodded. "We're not here to hold it." The Nigma fleet descended, overwhelming in scale. Orbital fire began immediately. Forests burned. Oceans boiled. Then the humans vanished. Vila felt triumph rise in his chest. They run again. "Scans show no life signs," an officer confirmed. Vila ordered ground forces deployed. That was the mistake. The ground erupted. Human bunkers rose from beneath the surface. Not fortified cities, but traps. Gravity wells collapsed landing craft. Atmosphere disruptors shattered formations. Human soldiers emerged from smoke and fire, striking fast, disappearing again. "They're everywhere," a commander shouted. "No," Vila said slowly. "They are nowhere." The fighting dragged on for days. Nigma forces secured the planet, on paper. But supply convoys vanished. Communications failed. Human attacks came without pattern. When Vila ordered withdrawal, half his ground forces were gone. Halcyon burned behind them. A human world sacrificed. And humanity did not slow down. Across the galaxy, something else happened. Species long oppressed by the Nigma Empire watched the reports. They saw something impossible. The Empire bleeding. Small rebellions began. A supply station sabotaged. A ship delayed. A transmission intercepted. Nothing major. Just enough. On Earth, the Human Strategic Council convened. General Marcus Hale stood before a simple display. "We are not winning," he said. No one argued. "But neither are they," he continued. "And that matters." A young analyst spoke up. "The Nigma Empire is built on speed. Fast conquest. Fast fear. We are slowing them down." Hale nodded. "And we are forcing them to react. That is when they fail." "Casualties are rising," another warned. Hale's jaw tightened. "They always do." A silence fell. "We will lose worlds," Hale said. "We will lose people. But the Empire will lose something worse." "What?" someone asked. Hale looked at the map. "Certainty." Vila received new orders. Total escalation. Planet-breaking weapons authorized. The first target was Earth. The message reached human command within minutes. General Hale closed his eyes. "So it comes," he said. "Evacuation?" an aide asked. Hale shook his head. "Earth stays." "But..." "Earth stays," he repeated. "If they want to break us, they'll have to look us in the eyes while they try." Human fleets began converging. Not to defend. To delay. The Nigma Armada moved like a storm, unstoppable and vast. And yet, slower. Each jump met resistance. Each advance cost more. When the Empire finally reached Earth's system, weeks behind schedule, something had changed. Earth was ready. Orbital platforms ringed the planet, not as shields, but as decoys. Old satellites burned like beacons. The planet looked exposed. Vila felt relief. "Begin planetary assault," he ordered. Human transmissions flooded the channel. Not threats. Not pleas. Music. Human music, played across open frequencies. Vila snarled. "Silence it." "Sir," an officer whispered, "they're using the signal to synchronize something." Space bent. Human ships appeared inside the formation. Inside. Not attacking the largest ships. Targeting command vessels. Targeting leaders. Targeting Vila. His bridge shook as alarms screamed. "Retreat!" someone shouted. But retreat was impossible. Human ships latched onto Nigma hulls, overloading reactors, self-destructing without hesitation. One human pilot broadcast a final message. "You were warned." Vila's last thought was not fear. It was understanding. The humans were not defending Earth. They were making a point. And the galaxy was watching. The Nigma Empire believed destroying Earth would end the war. They believed fear would break humanity. They were wrong. Because humans do not disappear when you burn their worlds. They remember. Earth did not break. The first Nigma strike shattered orbital platforms and tore scars across the upper atmosphere, but the planet endured. Human engineers had predicted the angles. Cities vanished beneath layered shields. Oceans absorbed the heat. Mountains cracked, but did not fall. From orbit, Earth looked wounded, but alive. Admiral Vila never lived to see it. His command ship vanished in a controlled human detonation, its core crushed inward by gravity manipulation that Nigma science had deemed impossible. His death did not slow the Empire. It hardened it. The Emperor declared humanity an extinction-level threat. No surrender terms would be offered. No negotiations allowed. Total annihilation authorized. Across human space, the response was immediate. Humanity activated the memory protocol. It was not a weapon. It was a record. Every human colony, ship, and station received the same data package. Names, faces, voices, lives lost since the invasion began. Children, engineers, farmers, pilots. Human grief did not explode. It focused. Factories doubled output. Recruitment stations overflowed. Retired soldiers returned without being asked. Civilian vessels volunteered for conversion. Human memory became momentum. Captain Jonah Reed commanded a civilian transport retrofitted into a combat ship. He had never fired a weapon before the war. Now, he led a strike group. "We're not here to win," he told his crew. "We're here to make sure they never forget us." The crew nodded. They all understood. The Nigma Empire began losing systems. Not through conquest. Through collapse. Human strikes targeted infrastructure. Energy hubs. Communication relays. Trade arteries. Each strike was precise. Calculated. Never random. Never merciful. Rebellions spread faster now. Species once silenced by fear rose when they saw Nigma fleets stretched thin. Human agents did not lead these uprisings. They only supplied them. Tools. Knowledge. Hope. The Emperor's war council fractured. "We cannot fight everywhere," a general warned. "We must," the Emperor replied. "They are not conquering us," the high strategist said quietly. "They are unraveling us." Silence fell. Human strategy was simple. Never give the Empire a single target. Never fight fair. Never stop. At the Battle of Black Reach, the Empire attempted a decisive engagement. 3,000 ships. Human forces numbered less than half. But the humans did not fight in formation. They fought in layers. Decoy fleets drew fire. Hidden fleets struck from behind. Civilian vessels carried false signatures. When the Empire adapted, humans changed. Mid-battle, human commanders died. Human ships fell. But every loss taught the next wave something new. By the end, Black Reach was filled with wreckage. The Empire retreated again. A captured Nigma commander was brought before General Hale. "You could have ended this," the commander hissed. "You could have submitted." Hale looked tired. "We did," he said. "Once. On our own world. Thousands of years ago." The commander stared. "And we learned what submission costs," Hale continued. "We don't forget lessons." The Emperor ordered the construction of the final array, a weapon capable of erasing entire star systems. "If humans thrive on memory," he declared, "then we will erase them completely." The array would take months. Human intelligence knew this within days. Human command did not rush. They waited. They planned. They remembered. On a small outpost near the Empire's core worlds, Ambassador Elias Moreno stood with allied delegates. "You are risking everything," one said. Moreno nodded. "So are they. And if you fail?" Moreno smiled sadly. "Then we leave a memory strong enough that no empire will ever try this again." Far above, human fleets began moving, not toward defense, but toward the heart of the Nigma Empire. The war had changed. It was no longer about survival. It was about legacy, and humanity intended to write it in stars. The Nigma Empire had one final weapon, a weapon meant to erase humanity forever. What they did not understand was simple. You cannot erase a species that already learned how to survive extinction. The final array was the largest structure ever built by the Nigma Empire. It stretched across empty space like a metal scar, anchored to a dead star whose energy it fed upon. Once activated, it would collapse targeted systems into silence. No explosion. No warning. Just disappearance. Entire histories erased. The Emperor stood before its holographic projection, surrounded by his remaining generals. "This ends today," he said. "Human memory dies with their stars." None of the generals spoke. They had all seen the reports. Human fleets were no longer retreating. They were advancing. Admiral Selka, the last great fleet commander of the Empire, watched human ships breach the outer defense perimeter. "They shouldn't be here yet," an officer said. Selka nodded slowly. "They are never where we expect." Human ships moved differently now. Not in chaotic swarms, not in scattered strikes, but in deliberate lines. Calm. Confident. "They're not rushing," the officer whispered. Selka felt something unfamiliar tighten in his chest. Fear. General Marcus Hale stood aboard the UHN Resolute, watching the array grow larger on the viewscreen. "This is it," someone said. Hale nodded. "Yes. If we fail." "We won't," Hale replied, not with confidence, but with certainty. Humanity had planned this moment since the first warning was ignored. The battle for the final array was unlike anything before. The Empire fought desperately. Their ships formed rigid defensive grids. Their weapons burned space itself. The humans did not match force with force. They matched it with understanding. Human hackers flooded the array systems with ghost commands, learned from captured technology. Human saboteurs launched in stealth pods, not to destroy, but to rewrite. Human ships sacrificed themselves to open corridors, knowing others would follow. The Empire's greatest strength, its rigid structure, became its weakness. When one command ship fell, confusion spread. Humans adapted instantly. Selka ordered a full defensive collapse. Too late. Human strike teams breached the array's core. Inside, engineer Lila Voss stared at the impossible machinery around her. "So this is what ends worlds," she whispered. Her team leader shook his head. "No. This is what tries to." They planted no bombs. They uploaded code. The array's targeting system rewrote itself, spreading its energy load across every connected Nigma system. Lila's hands shook as she finished the final command. "What happens now?" she asked. The leader met her eyes. "They learn." The Emperor felt the shift before alarm sounded. "What is happening?" he demanded. The High Strategist's voice trembled. "The array, it's activating, but not correctly." Stars on the map began to dim. Not human stars. Nigma stars. The Empire's core systems began collapsing under their own weapon strain. "No," the Emperor whispered. Human fleets disengaged. They did not stay to watch. Across the galaxy, Nigma worlds went dark. Not destroyed. Disconnected. Their empire fractured into isolated systems, unable to support each other. Trade died. Communication failed. Fear spread. The Emperor stood alone as the palace lights faded. For the first time, the Nigma Empire was silent. Weeks later, the Galactic Council reconvened. The seats once filled by Nigma delegates were empty. Ambassador Elias Moreno stood once more at the center. We did not destroy the empire, he said. We ended its ability to harm others. A delegate asked, why spare them? Moreno paused. Because destruction teaches fear, he said. Memory teaches restraint. Human fleets withdrew. Not in triumph. In warning. Stories spread faster than any ship. The empire that ignored humanity's final warning. The empire that learned too late. On Earth, children studied the war not as glory, but as lesson. Humans rebuilt what was lost. They always did. Far beyond known space, a signal drifted. Old. Human. A simple message, carried forever. Do not test us. We remember. The war was over. The Nigma Empire still existed. And that terrified the galaxy more than their destruction ever could. Because humans had chosen something far more dangerous than revenge. The galaxy took a long time to breathe again. Trade routes reopened cautiously. Border worlds rebuilt in silence. Entire species waited, watching human space, unsure of what came next. Empires usually celebrated victory. Humanity did not. They mourned. On Earth, the sky was filled with quiet lights as memorial drones rose into orbit. Each carried a name. Not ranks. Not numbers. Names. Children stood beside elders. Soldiers stood beside civilians. No speeches were given. No flags waved. Human memory was not loud. It was heavy. In the fractured remains of the Nigma Empire, survival became a daily struggle. Without centralized control, worlds that had depended on imperial supply chains faced famine. Technology failed without maintenance. Once proud fleets rusted in orbit. Former imperial officers expected humans to finish the job. They waited for annihilation. It never came. Instead, human ships arrived with something unfamiliar. Aid. Food synthesizers. Medical teams. Engineers. No weapons powered, no demands made. A Nigma governor stared in disbelief as human relief ships docked. Why? He demanded through a translator. After everything we did, why help us? The human captain answered simply, because we don't need you dead to win. The Galactic Council struggled to redefine its understanding of power. For thousands of years, strength meant domination. Fear. Erasure. Humanity had rewritten the definition. Ambassador Elias Moreno addressed the council one final time. You saw what we can do, he said. But more importantly, you saw what we chose not to do. A delegate asked the question every species was thinking. What happens if humanity is threatened again? Moreno did not hesitate. We will respond, he said. Decisively. The room fell silent. But we will always leave room for learning, he added. Because a galaxy built on fear eventually collapses. General Marcus Hale retired 2 months after the war. He walked through a rebuilt city, watching children play beneath half-repaired towers. A reporter approached him, recorder trembling. General, she asked, history will remember you as the man who defeated the Nigma Empire. How do you feel? Hale looked tired. I didn't defeat an empire, he said. I slowed one down long enough for it to trip over itself. But humanity won. Hale shook his head. Humanity endured. Winning was optional. In human academies, the war became required study. Not tactics. Psychology. Students learned why humans survived when stronger species failed. Because humans prepared for loss. Because humans adapted mid-failure. Because humans bonded under pressure. Because humans remembered. They learned the most important rule of human warfare. Never fight to prove strength. Fight to remove the enemy's certainty. Years passed. The Nigma people changed. Without an empire to hide behind, they were forced to adapt. To negotiate. To cooperate. Slowly, painfully, they learned restraint. The galaxy watched closely. Some feared humans would one day rule everything. They misunderstood. Humanity never wanted control. They wanted space. To think. to create, to explore. But they would never allow themselves to be hunted again. On a distant human outpost, far beyond former war zones, a small monument stood alone. No names were carved. Just words. Here stands the warning. A young alien explorer stopped to read it, her translator whispering the meaning. She asked her human guide, "Is this where the war began?" The guide shook his head. "No," he said. "This is where others learned not to start one." Long after fleets returned to civilian purpose, after factories rebuilt homes instead of weapons, after scars faded from planets and people, the story remained. Passed in trade halls. Whispered in military academies. Shared between stars. The empire that ignored humanity's final warning. The species that fought like prey and endured like predators. The civilization that did not conquer the galaxy, but taught it fear through mercy. Because when humans choose to fight, they fight to be remembered. And when they choose restraint, it is because they know something others do not. That survival is not guaranteed. But memory is.